How are you doing? So, today let's chat about why your hubby doesn't want to talk about the marriage. He has no interest, he's acting cold and distant, and he doesn't want to hear anything about the marriage and what you can do about it. If you're new to my page, say hi Angela, hi everybody. Drop and say where you're joining this call from. Okay, so we're going to cover three things, and I do have my notes, so I will look down and I will go through why your hubby keeps avoiding the relationship talk, okay, and the biggest mistake you're making as a wife when it comes to communication. And at the end, I will share one big tip that you can use to move forward and get the relationship that you want. Hi, Sarah. Oh my goodness. From Uganda, from China, all the way. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for joining the live. Okay, so here's the thing. All marriages go through a period where there's a distance, okay? And if you've been following my page, you know I went through a separation. So I understand firsthand how frustrating, actually it's very painful when you really want to talk about the marriage and your man is really not interested. So this is something that I understand, okay? And it happens in all relationships, in all marriages. But the thing that I've learned is that when you do nothing about it, I think marriages are just one of those things that if you do nothing about it, it will just keep deteriorating. It's like a wound that's left unaddressed. It will keep deteriorating until you probably figure out you eventually need a surgery, okay? So this is something that I knew firsthand, because the very first time I tried to have a conversation about my marriage, we ended up getting separated. So I know how frustrating it can be to be in a situation where you are initiating talks and the hubby does not want anything to do with it. Okay, so drop a heart and let me know if this is something that you are experiencing or this is something that you can relate with. Okay, so here are the three biggest mistakes that I made and I see many of my clients making anytime your hubby does not want a relationship talk. Okay, and the first thing is, I'm checking my notes. The first thing is you keep initiating the same conversation over and over again. Okay, this is a big mistake that I see so many of my clients doing. And here's the thing, I know you probably feel like it's coming from a place of love where you feel like, oh my goodness, you are protecting the marriage, you're taking care of the marriage. But what tends to happen, the more you push and initiate a relationship talk, the more he detaches, because you've now turned into this masculine energy that is pushing and wants to steer the relationship. Remember, by the time your hubby does not want to have a relationship talk with you, it means the marriage is disconnected. Okay, so that's why the first biggest mistake is you find yourself initiating talks over and over again. Now that turns you into chasing. You are chasing his love, chasing his reassurance, chasing his validation. Okay, the second biggest mistake that happens if your hubby does not want to have the talk with you is that you start to feel like you are not worthy of being chosen. Okay, and this happens a lot, especially for so many wives tend to feel like the state of the marriage is a direct reflection on them. So it's like if your hubby does not want you, you feel like you are not worthy. It's like your worth is tied into this husband, this man, without realizing that you are an individual, he is an individual, and the relationship is a third dynamic. So whatever is happening is not because you are not worthy. And this is a huge mistake. When you start to feel, oh my goodness, I'm not worthy to be chosen, he's gonna get another woman who is better than me. And this is all completely normal. It happens because we live in a society whereby by the time you're hitting 40, everybody says, oh my goodness, yeah, you're no longer attractive. So there's just this fear that so many wives tend to have. It's like you are the one who has to guard and protect the marriage, because without him, like your whole life is finished. Okay, so that's the second biggest mistake. Feeling like you're not worthy to be chosen just because you are going through a rough patch. Okay, and the third mistake is where you start to now go into the mode of shutting down. Okay, and this is a huge one. I see so many of my clients, they come to me and they're like, Linda, I have just decided to keep the peace. I have stopped initiating. And what tends to happen is once a woman starts to stop initiating talks, it's like she shut down mentally. Most of the times, they start to look for other third outlets. And a big one is alcohol. A second one is binge eating, emotional eating. Others start to have affairs. And the huge one is that over a time, you start to notice it's not sustainable. Okay, so what you're doing is that you are escaping the pain and you're not dealing with the pain. And the one thing I've learned in this whole journey of mine, I've been married for 13 years, is lessons are repeated until they are learned. Okay, and it's not that there's anything wrong with you. Just the same way you get a job, okay, you are hired as a manager. There was a requirement that led you to be a manager, but if you want to be promoted to a senior manager, it requires a different level of skill. It requires a different level of you, a different skill set, a different capacity. And that's why getting married is one thing and staying happily married is a whole new ballgame, especially for us as women. Us as women, we have our own very different dynamic, and this is something I'm experiencing. All my clients who come to me, they sit in counseling, but they still feel like whatever is being addressed in counseling, whatever is being addressed in therapy does not honor them as women, their sovereignty, their femininity, who they are, who they are at their core. And that is true because as women, we have our own different dynamics, our own sets of emotions, our own sensuality, which is completely different, that I am now realizing women who are sitting in counseling are missing that out. Okay, so those are the three biggest mistakes that I see women making when their hubby is not having relationship talks. Like I've mentioned, the first one, you decide that your worth is attached to this man, okay? So it's like you start to feel insecure. You start to feel like, oh my goodness, without this man, I am not worthy to be chosen, okay? The second thing is you're constantly initiating talks over and over again. The third thing, you start to shut down and start to look for escape routes, okay? Which really, truly, it's not sustainable, okay? So what the biggest thing that happens, yeah? Once you start to let go of your insecurity and fear as a woman, because we all have that, and it affects us as women so much more, okay? Once you start to address your level of security, you stop chasing love, okay? You start to show up as a worthy woman. You start to remember who you are again. You start to remember who you are again, and you realize that, yes, the relationship is having issues. It does not necessarily mean you're not worthy or you're a bad partner or you're a failure. No, it's just that the relationship is having issues. Yeah? And you start to realize that there is the power of femininity. You as a woman have the power of influence. In fact, the other day I was having lunch with my dad, and he was telling me we were just having just normal chit-chat. And it's like everything in a home, it's you, the woman. You're the one who decides where it's going to go. And it's not by you going to do more. It's just the way you think and how you approach things. All right. So the one thing you need to do to start to shift the dynamic in your marriage, okay, and start to have conversations, because my goodness, once communication breaks, we all need communication. And there is the feminine way of communicating, okay? It's not just going to have more logical conversations. It's just about learning, first of all, remembering, going from chasing his love, where you're feeling like you are a failure, you're not worthy to be chosen. You have to go from that anxious style of love energy to feeling more secure in who you are as a woman. That's a huge major shift that will change your marriage, and it will, even by the time you're talking to him, it's like he's looking at a whole new woman. Okay, because like I have mentioned, one of the biggest reasons why women start to initiate talks over and over again is because they are feeling like they are not worthy to be chosen. They are feeling insecure, yeah? And you do not realize that you are worthy as who you are. And most of this wounding comes from childhood. It's not something that just started happening with your marriage, okay? It's not something that just woke up and started happening with your hubby. A lot of this anxious, insecure style of love started back then from when you were a young girl, when you were 8. Okay, that time when you went to class and your teacher shamed you for your size and you decided, oh my goodness, I'm not attractive. It started at that point where society keeps telling you, past 35, past 36, it's only you, the woman, who has to do all the hard work. It starts to ingrain in your brain whereby you, at your bridal shower, you're taught that to be a good wife, you just go and open the door. If he calls you at 5 a.m., if he's drunk, it's fine. You go and save him. Okay? All this conditioning has shaped you into somebody who you are not. Yeah? And that's why a huge part of femininity work is to going back to remember your worth as a woman. Outside of what your mom told you, your dad told you, society is telling you, the pastor is telling you, and this is where you start to feel secure as a woman. Okay, once you start to feel secure, you will notice a huge shift. And the second thing that will help you to start to shift the dynamic of pain of your hubby not wanting the relationship talk and you wanting this whole push and pull is to break the pattern of painful communication. This is one thing I have noticed, and this is something I guide my clients with. The biggest thing, the biggest shift I have seen is knowing how to communicate. The problem is not that you want your hubby to be home on Friday at 9. You are not being demanding. It's just that the style of communication that's going on is painful, and that's why that pattern needs to be broken, and you start to communicate in a way that you truly, first of all, even know, you feel safe in knowing what you're asking for, what you want, and he is able to understand you. So that aspect of breaking painful communication, that's a huge, huge thing that will help you reconnect your marriage. So let me see if there are any questions. I do have a training. It's a relationship resource on how to get back your intimate marriage. It's on my profile. If you're home alone on Friday nights, you keep having the same arguments over and over again. You're home, you can't remember the last time you went on a romantic date, and right now you are separated. Right now you are separated and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm contemplating divorce. Please go and get the resource. It's on my profile. Download it. I have all the steps that you need to take to start to reconnect your marriage. Do you have any advice that's specific for newly wedded wives? So what is the issue? Yeah, marriage is a huge aspect. What advice do you need for newly wedded wives? I'd love to know, because in fact, I think you can go check my highlights. I do have a section on testimonials, okay? So many women who follow this page, they just take the tips I share every day and they're reconnecting their marriages. And it comes from whether you are, newlywed, others are, in fact, the other day I was talking to a lady who's been married for 24 years. Last year she was like, Linda, I am leaving my marriage. And she just sent me a DM and she's like, she just implemented all the wisdom, all the tips that I share, and she's back home in her marriage and she was able to get back the love that she deserves. Okay, so I think for you, I would say, what exactly is the specific advice you're looking for? And if you need more support, send me a DM. I will direct you to the right resource that you require. Okay, so let me see if there's any other question that's coming up. Any other question that's coming up? And I think for me, the biggest thing when it comes to newlywed wives, communication is a big thing, because this is where you're setting your foundation. This is where you are setting the tone, okay? And I always say it's not that it's the issue is not that how do I say it? As a newlywed, this is the right time to set the tone, but it does not guarantee that you're not going to, have relationship issues, because all relationships go through a rough patch. Yeah, so what you need is just to be equipped with communication skills, sensuality skills. And if you send me a DM with your specific issue, because the big issue I'm noticing with newlyweds is a boundary issue. Yeah, their men are starting to go out till 5 in the morning and they are not able to communicate. And usually what I notice is that pattern of painful love, when you dig a little bit deeper, requires inner work. Okay, so please feel free to share with me the exact issue in terms of newlywed wives, so that I can see what support you may need. So let's see, maintaining femininity during this transition to be. So are you single? Are you a wife? Okay, so I'm hearing, are you single? Are you a wife? Are you a stay-at-home mom? Are you a working wife? So maybe be a little bit clear. Be a little bit clear, because what it takes for a stay-at-home mom like me to maintain my femininity is very different from a career-driven woman. Okay, but overall, what I would say is a huge part of femininity is being connected to your body. Okay, and I would strongly recommend go to my profile and check out, there's a relationship resource there on how to get back your hubby's love. Okay, that one is a huge aspect, because as women, we live in our heads. We are always thinking what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done, who needs to do what, your child, your nanny, your hubby, your parents, your in-laws. We live so much in our heads because that's the society we are in, and we forget to connect with our bodies. Okay, so why is connecting with our bodies important? Because first of all, that's your intuitive space. Okay, usually if something is off, most of the times, in fact, there was a babe who was telling me, Linda, I have to check my phone. And I'm like, you do not have to check your hubby's phone to confirm anything. You already know. Okay, we have intuition. You do not need anything. Your intuition is always speaking. But usually when you are disconnected from your body, you're not able to listen to you. Okay, so I would strongly suggest go to my profile, check out that training, because a big part of maintaining femininity when you are still newlywed is making sure you feel secure in yourself, so that you don't lose yourself in the marriage. Yeah, this is a big one. When you are a newly wedded wife, there's this thing where you feel like you want to prove you are this good wife. Yeah, you want to prove. So you want to be on top of everything. And this is what puts you in the position of being controlling and being like a mom. Yeah, and then you find your hubby just leaves everything for you. You go ahead and do it. Okay, so I think the simplest way, I would say, go to my profile, download the training. And the big one is to make sure you feel secure in who you are as a woman. That is a huge part of maintaining your femininity. So let's see if there's any other question. Like I've mentioned, if you want to reconnect your marriage, go to my profile. How do you set a boundary where one feels with husband struggles like they are ill-treated at work, wife goes to bed feeling overwhelmed about hubby's job and life issues? So what happens with this? Sounds like you are an empath, okay? So what tends to happen, empaths, nurturing women, are the ones who absorb people's problems and take it as their own. All right, so there is a difference when you trust that your hubby is capable of resolving his own issues, then he can come and talk about his problems 24 hours. He will talk about his problem 24 hours. But if you trust that he is capable of resolving the issues, it will not bother you. Of course, it's frustrating, whatever is going on. It is frustrating. You'll be like, oh, babe, that is so frustrating, yeah? but you have to trust that he's able to resolve his problems. The issue here is if you're going to bed overwhelmed with information, it's because you do not believe he's capable of solving his own problems. Okay, so the boundary is with you. It's not with him, it's with you. Do you trust that he is capable of resolving his own problems? That is the question right there. Because what tends to happen, by the time you start to feel overwhelmed, it means you think you want to save him, which is a wounded feminine energy. This is where saving energy comes from, because you don't trust he is capable. Because remember, our men are supposed to come and talk to us. Who else will they talk to? Because if your hubby is not sharing with you whatever he's going through, which by the Ms.Linda, it's a good thing he's sharing with you, because it means there is an emotional connection. Okay, so for you, what I would strongly ask you to check within yourself, where do you feel like your hubby is not capable? Because that is the reason why you are going to bed overwhelmed, because you feel that he is not capable of resolving the issues. So the boundary is to be set within yourself, to trust your man. And many women do not trust men for various reasons, and that is why I'm asking you to check with you. Why do you not trust your man is capable? Okay, because if you continue this way, you're going to turn into his mother, you're going to start saving him, which is how men start becoming emasculated. Okay, so let me see if there's any other question coming up. Hi, Subin. Hi, Val. Hi. Let's see if there's any other question. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to DM me. Otherwise, if you want to reconnect your relationship, go check out the training on my profile and download. And I wish you a beautiful day. Bye.